6 years ago, I'm watching Nightline in my home in Flower Mound, Texas, and a teacher in Bowie, Texas had witnessed a child in the cafeteria licking his plate during lunch, and the kids were making fun of him. And after that episode, she began investigating and realized that a lot of her kids were going home on the weekend hungry. Nightline comes out and does a story on Kayla Brown. And at the end of Kayla's story, she said two things that really resonated with me. If you don't think this is going on in your community, you need to take your blindfold off and see. The other thing that Kayla said is, I don't know how I can eat another bite knowing kids are going hungry. I had tears, I'll be honest with you, I had tears in my eyes because flashbacks to growing up in Clarendon, Texas. And my parents were educators, and it made sense all of a sudden of why my friends wanted to eat off my plate, why they would steal food at Allsup's, why they would always race to the cafeteria to eat lunch. I never understood it. The next day I go down to an elementary school there in Louisville, and I ask a principal, I said, did you see this story on Nightline last night? Kind of following up on Kayla's challenge to take our blindfold off. And she said, I did, and I have 100 children that need this program. And at that point, that's where this all got started. We moved back to the Panhandle 2 years ago. The school that kept coming up was Rogers Elementary, which is on Mirror and Amarillo Boulevard. I go in there, really just knocked on the door and went in and met with Terry Huseman, principal there, described what we had done in Dallas area, why we would move back here, and this was 2 days before Labor Day. And she said, I have hungry kids at my school, just like what I had shared with her. And I said, how many? She said, I have 10 that I know will go home Labor Day weekend and be without. So this is 3 days versus 2. My wife and I then went to Sam's, Walmart, and United and bought food, and we came back the next day to Terry's school, and I gave her 10 bags. I said, this is what the program looked like in Dallas. And she fed those kids. Then she calls me back the next week and she says, we have 20 kids. Can you do 20 bags? And I said, sure, no problem. We're doing this in my kitchen. There's a nonprofit service center at the Amarillo Area Foundation. So I made an appointment with Catherine Wiegand, and I described kind of what we were doing at Rogers and what my vision was, and I shared with her about all these letters. And she knows about all the nonprofits in Amarillo and all the resources in our community. So when we met, she gave me a kind of a template and an idea of what to do, which was great. I mean, as a nonprofit organization, we have a resource that we can tap into as a consultant, and the cost was zero. The program has grown immensely. I think probably more importantly than the program growing is the awareness in our community of what our children have faced. And I would say that to me is the success of this program, is the awareness of this hunger that those principals had outlined in those letters. Now our community was involved and they were aware. Once our community has become aware of this problem, they have rallied around these kids. Not just in Amarillo, but across the Panhandle and as far as San Antonio. And that's what's exciting, is the awareness has led to action. I think the award, to be honest with you, gives these kids a voice. And that's what's exciting, is through this recognition, which should not be about me, or really shouldn't be about our program, but it should be about giving these children a voice. And when I meet adults that have gone through this as kids, and they've been brave enough to tell me their story, and they've been brave enough to go public with their story, I really think that's what this award is about, for people that went through this as children, that have come forward and shared their story, and then not even counting the many stories of kids that could come forward now and tell that. That's what this award is about.